Hey everybody, Audiolab here. Now last week I showed you my new CD transport, the Denafrips Avatar. It's a serious piece of kit that will be replacing my previous transport, the Audiolab 6000 CDT. And as long as I had those two in my house, I thought, well, I might just as well compare them. So if you think that is interesting, keep watching. Now the Audiolab is an elegant looking transport that originally sold for around €550 and the Denafrips looks a bit more bold and was originally priced at around €1,700. So let's see if the €1,000 price difference is worth it. Let's start with the setup. Both transports are connected to the Ares 2 DA converter, and this one is also from Denafrips. The Avatar is connected with an AudioQuest Carbon digital cable and the 6000 CDT is connected also with an AudioQuest, the Forest, an optical cable. The Avatar uses a Furatech power cable and the 6000 CDT is connected with a Nordost power cable. So all cabling is of matching quality, but they are not the same. Now that might impact my experience, but this is not a laboratory, so this will have to do. During the last 30 years I've been collecting a lot of CDs and some of them I have double. And this was ideal as I could load the same CD in both transports, which made the test a lot more convenient. Now of course there is a possibility that those CDs are not sounding exactly the same, so I could up ending hearing the differences between the CDs instead of the transports. But again, this is not a laboratory. And throughout all the different CDs, the differences between the transports stayed consistent, so I did not worry too much about it. But I thought you should know this information. Now let's start with my conclusion. And after listening to a lot of CDs, I settled on the Avatar as the better transport, but the Audiolab did a great job in keeping up. So how did I get to that conclusion? One thing that was noticeable is that the Audiolab sounded a bit more sharp, a bit more harsh. Now I hasten to say that the Audiolab is not a harsh sounding transport, but in comparison it had a bit more of an edge, a bit more of a bite to the music compared to the Denafrips Avatar. And this edge was most noticeable when listening to Miles Davis, for example, putting some fire into his trumpet. Another difference that was more apparent was speed. So in a very busy piece of music or some fierce guitar playing, the sound of the Audiolab became much more muddy. The Denafrips on the other hand kept all the different sounds apart and audible much better. However, on slow piano music it was much more difficult to choose a winner between the two transports. The Audiolab may even appear a bit more beautiful on that kind of music because its sound signature seems to be tailored to sound a bit more fluent, a bit more beautiful. Now this is at the expense of accuracy and presence, but when I started the test I picked a slow piano piece and I actually preferred the Audiolab over the Denafrips on that kind of music. Another thing the Audiolab does very well is layering, meaning that, for example, in a live performance that faint cough from the third row in the back was easier to identify than on the Denafrips. Not by a lot, but still. On the other hand, that cough on the Denafrips was much more human sounding and on the Audiolab it sounded a bit more mechanical. So the Audiolab sounds pretty sweet compared to the Denafrips being more honest. This means that a better recording will be more exposed on the Denafrips than on the Audiolab. Now, as you understand by now, there is a clear winner for me, but it was actually quite difficult to get to that conclusion. The Audiolab absolutely has a few things going for it. The sweet and musical nature of the Audiolab is probably why it is so wildly popular. However, in comparison to the Denafrips, the Avatar shortcomings are also obvious. Now maybe a better DA converter will expose even more qualities in the Avatar, but for now I think my Denafrips Ares 2 did do a fine job in exposing the differences, but I also think that the Ares 2 is currently the weakest link in my system. So there you have it, the Avatar stays, the Audiolab will have to go. Now before I go, there is one thing that I feel I need to share with you guys. The Denafrips Avatar is not longer being made by Denafrips, and one of the reasons might be because they only bought a limited amount of new old stock laser units for this machine. But there were also some problems in reliability. Also, going through the different forums, I noticed multiple mentions that the display can stop working after a few years if you leave the Avatar on 24/7. And one of you guys even commented on the previous video that his machine has trouble reading the CDs and only a reboot will work for one CD. So I don't know if this is just a small amount of machines that suffer from this or if this is a bigger problem. So all I can say is that my machine is working without any trouble or problems, but I thought you should know this. It does surprise me a little bit because it cannot really be the laser unit because these are Philips CDM4 units. Those units have proven to be very reliable. Many 30-year-old CD players that still work today are equipped with a CDM4 unit. And Denafrips secured about 3000 new old stock of those CDM4 units. So I don't know what it is, but I had to share it. Okay, now I am really done. I want to thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.